takeover of the schools on the Isle of Man earlier in the program, and I wanted to deliver on it because I know this is important. If you're keeping up with all 73 genders, then you need to be able to distinguish them. And I know a lot of people are asking, hey, Dan, what's the difference between a paraboy and a demi-boy?
How did you know I was going to ask you that?
It's a lot of people are asking.
I can't even mention 5 genders.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So take out your notebooks and here's a distillation of the difference between a paraboy and a demi-boy.
What's the difference? Yow! Paraboy versus demi-boy. Hey. People who identify as paragender feel as though their gender is made up of a dominant gender and a minor gender or genders. And people who identify as paraboy feel as though their dominant gender is male, while their minor gender could be any gender and genders, but their dominant is male. Versus people who identify as demi-boy, who feel as though part of their gender is male and the other part could be any or multiple genders. The only difference between paraboy and demi-boy is people who identify as paraboy know that their dominant gender is male, while people who identify as demi-boy feel as though their gender is partly male. People who identify as demi-boy may feel that part of their gender is male, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the dominant gender. Versus people who are paraboy who know that their dominant gender is male. Not every paraboy and demi-boy are the same as other paraboys and demi-boys, and they may identify as any way that they want to identify. But we love all our paraboy and demi-boys! Yeah.
Does that help?
Ew. What did I just listen to? What was
The
that?
more you know. I don't know if that young man
I don't
is on the faculty at Harvard yet, but I'm sure he will be soon enough. Yeah, paraboy versus demi-boy, if you're trying to keep up with all 73 genders. And this is what you need to know because you're not going to be looped in if you're a parent. At least that's the attitude of so many school districts, so many administrators, so many teachers. And we know this is particularly pronounced in California because of those audio tapes that Abigail Schreier was sent of a California Teachers Association meeting a couple of years ago, where teachers were specifically talking about how to work around parents who are not on board with their child having one gender at school and another gender at home, or working on a new gender at school with the help of teachers and staff, and keeping this information from parents that you're referring to their child by a different name or a different gender when they're in school. Well, that's exactly what happened to Aurora Regino, and she is now suing her child's school district. She's a California mom, and she's suing her child's school district for allegedly transitioning her 11-year-old's gender in secret, doing exactly what I suggested they do, doing exactly what they suggested they would do on those tapes that Abigail Schreier made public a couple of years ago. Aurora Regino joins us now. Miss Regino, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us the story of what happened with your child.
Well, she was going to elementary school here in California, in Northern California, at a school called Sierra View. And she had some confusion over her sexuality and voiced it to the school counselor. She's the head of what they call the wellness center at the school. And that day that she opened up to the counselor walked her to class and asked her if she would like to change her pronouns in class and that she would speak to her teacher and have that done for her that day.
Okay,
And then-
so and that ostensibly happened, and
Yes.
When
and
did
then,
you find out about it?
Yeah.
Well, that's really kind of the interesting thing because, you know, they kind of, the school district is saying that they are unable to let parents know unless the child tells them that they can let parents know. Well,
Sure.
in fact, this counselor was having one-on-one meetings with my child that I did not know of. And during these one-on-one meetings, after they transitioned my daughter at school to a boy without my knowledge, she did tell the counselor that she wanted to tell me. And the counselor just kind of disregarded or just ignored her request and was trying to encourage her to come out to other people first and not help her try to come out to her mother and her family. So my daughter told my mother, which my mother told me, and that's how I found out that she was, a boy at school and she was still a girl at home.
How long was that going on, the boy at school, girl at home, before you knew?
So once I, had reached out and talked to the counselor about when the initial coming out was to her, I think she told me it was about the middle of February, and then I found out at the beginning of April. So I would say, a couple months.
Couple months. And then when you found this out and you went to the school to talk to the counselor and or administrators, what did they say to you?
That's kind of eye-opening for me, too. I guess very naive, and I just thought, well, the fact that the counselor did this just so quickly and behind my back, that, our administrators would think that that was wrong, and they wouldn't want that for the children of the district, especially at such a young age. To my surprise, none of them really wanted to hear much of what happened, and they just wanted to tell me that this was law. They didn't want to hear the story of how quick it was or really, even any of the specifics. They wanted to go straight to bullying me and telling me that there's nothing I can do and that this is the law.
So what was your daughter's, did you notice a change in your daughter's attitude or behavior during that time when she transitioned at school but not at home?
So there was a difference in her style and behavior. Our family had been through quite a bit of trauma within the last year. We had, my father died, and then 6 months later I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm a single mom of my 2 young children. So she definitely was going through some distress. And during this change, I was also studying for state boards to be a nurse. So our family had a lot of, let's say, turmoil at that time. Nothing that was, extremely rare but it was a hard time for our family, let's just say. And so she was kind of developing like a different style, which I was kind of thought was different. She wasn't wearing her cute little sweaters that she normally wore. She always identified, if you were to pick like male or female, she always was very girly, even at a very young age. So the change in wanting to wear sweats opposed to like cute jeans and sweaters was a little different for me. And I asked her about it. But then I also, she had just started puberty, and, I was letting her, as long as it was appropriate, attire, letting her being able to be an individual and wear what she liked as well. So, and she was sleeping a lot during that time. And so I would talk to her and she would just say, I think I'm growing. And mind you, it was kind of a short little time. And like I said, I was a little preoccupied studying for those boards. So it was just a very confusing time for our family in general. But I never thought in a million years that the school district would transition her without my knowledge. I thought if there's something significant that was going on with my child at school, they would reach out to me in some way. And in fact, when I went in for the parent-teacher conference, I talked to her teacher specifically, and I said, look, our family has gone through these, hardships this year, the death of my dad, me having cancer. If you see any changes with my daughter at school, please reach out to me, because, I am not here with her at school, and if she's displaying any sort of distress, please let me know. And they didn't.
Do you
didn't
think
at all.
Do you think this is? Do they have like some idea that you wouldn't be supportive, and or is this just from your intuition or maybe understanding that this is just policy? They just do this regardless of whether they think the parent is on board or not.
Well, I actually asked the counselor that specific question. I said, why wouldn't you let me know? Like, why wouldn't you let me know what's going on with my child? Like, why, in your professional opinion, think that this was the best way to go with her and wanting to transition? And she said, well, I've let parents know in the past, and it didn't go well.
Oh my gosh!
Of course, yeah, of course. So just avoid the parents, so we could solve that problem. That's easy enough. Do you know?
Well, and I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the biggest thing for me was that she was going through all this. She was transitioned at school without her family's support. And not to say I wouldn't support her, because I would. I probably wouldn't have done it immediately, because she had never displayed any sort of confusion with her sexuality for any length of time. But if it continued, I would definitely support her, and I would give her the tools to help her go through that change at school. Let's say the bullying that the transgender community, constantly, cries out, and they're, saying, oh, this is the reason why we need all these laws in place, because we're bullied and all this stuff. Well, my daughter went through all that by herself. The school district transitioned her and just left her to figure it all out on her own as an 11-year-old young girl. And nobody was around to help her and support her. She was eating lunch by herself in the library, which she was always a very social, happy child. Before that, would never have done that. She was going into the school office and now was outed. These administrators in the office were calling her by a boy name and her new, pronouns. And she's thinking, how did they even know it? I didn't tell them. They basically outed her publicly with everybody except letting her own family know.
Well, sure, she's a mascot for them. Where is she now in terms of all this? Your daughter?
So, she is now identifying as a girl, and she's, she's doing well, and she has gotten back into her regular, bubbly, happy self again. She's not sleeping all the time. She, we look back at pictures even during that time, and she kind of just looked like a deer in a headlights. Like, her eyes were just kind of like wide open, very confused. I mean, I think you can think about how confusing that would be, and for a young child to be one thing at school and something totally different at home. It was totally confusing for her. In fact, it was damaging to a young child that was in distress because of the situation that happened, what was going on at home,
right,
with our family. And they really made wounds that she had even deeper.
Did they attempt or talk about putting her on puberty blockers or anything like that to facilitate a further transition?
Or a chest binder?
She said the counselor was talking to her about support groups outside of school. The local one here is called Stonewall Alliance, and how she could reach out to them and get a breast binder to bind her breast to help with the transition. She also brought up to my daughter about top surgery. My 11-year-old daughter. Yep.
Unbelievable. Well,
I don't remember. She did not say anything about puberty blockers, but she did bring up those things with my daughter without my knowledge as well.
Skipping ahead, top surgery, skipping ahead right past the puberty blockers. The other parents in the school, parents of other kids in the school that did they know that this was the school policy? Have you had conversations with other parents?
I didn't realize this was the policy when everything first happened. I really thought that this counselor did an overreach and the school district would want to know and stop this from happening. It wasn't until my meeting with the superintendent that they were hard-nosed that this was a law. They were very misleading during some of our conversations. Obviously, my first conversation with the principal and even the head of the elementary schools, Ted Sullivan, they were very much like, this is the law, what do you want us to do, break the law kind of thing. And then I met with an individual, which is the assistant superintendent of our district, Jay Marchant, and he was, misleading in the fact where he was the first one I felt like actually listened to my daughter's story and what happened, and was even listening like, well, what do you, he would say things kind of like, well, what would you think we should do? And I'm like, bring the parents in unless you have reason to believe that they're going to harm the child. Like, why would you automatically go to straight to hiding it from the family? You're actually damaging the child.
Right, they're harming the child by I mean, it's just everything's upside down, obviously. But other parents, parents of other students, do they know about this, or they do now because of your story?
They do now. I really, during the process, I kind of kept it within my circle and within my close friends. There were some people that knew, but I really wanted the district to do the right thing. I wasn't looking to, have to make a stance to let people know how wrong it was, because I really thought they thought they would think it was wrong too.
Aurora Regino, California mom, suing her child's school district in California, of course, for, as you just heard her describe, attempting to transition her 11-year-old in secret without the parents hiding behind the quote-unquote law. Aurora Regino, first of all, I'm glad your daughter is doing well and your family's doing better. And thank you for your time, and good luck with your suit against that school district.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Let's face it, talking about life insurance is never easy. But after we watched a close friend lose her husband with no insurance, we decided that wasn't going to happen to our family.
Yeah, but shopping for life insurance can be almost as difficult as talking about it.
But then we heard about Ethos Life Insurance. They're a new kind of life insurance, built for people on a busy schedule who don't have time for unnecessary doctor's visits, fine print, or hidden fees. Who want to keep it simple.
I couldn't believe how easy it was. We answered a few basic questions, and within minutes, we had an estimate of what it would cost and what sort of policy made sense for us.
I never imagined a life insurance could be so affordable.
And accessible.
The peace of mind knowing that our future is secure, it just removes a lot of the fear around getting older and...
Yeah, the unexpected.
I'm glad we talked about it.
I'm glad we went with ethoslife.com.
Go to ethoslife.com now for your free estimate. That's ethoslife.com. ethoslife.com.
Hey, it's Dan Proft. I like to speak the truth and offer solutions. Well, if you have high blood pressure or know someone who does, I have the answer for you. I'm going to tell you about my friends at 120 Life. 120 Life, they're a Chicago company that developed a juice drink that helps lower your blood pressure naturally, or in my case, helps me keep my blood pressure in check. 120 Life, it's a natural juice drink you drink every day without the side effects of pills. I'm drinking it, I love it, and you will too. It keeps me energized, it keeps my blood pressure in check. The truth is, there are easy, natural ways to keep your blood pressure in check, and one of them is 120 Life. Check it out and tell them Dan Proft sent you.